Okay, I think I can maybe already start my introduction. My name is Benedikt Lenatz. You probably know me around from IUM. I'm head of the Finance Society, and in accordance to 𝗚𝗲𝗿𝗁, I prepared some questions in behalf of all of you that I'll just throw at Gerrit. But if you just feel like I didn't cover a topic that you are interested in, just feel free to raise your hand, and then I'll be happy to give you the talking beer, so you can give your question forward. Yeah, and then I would say we just start with the first question, since we know you are an IUM alumni. Would you maybe guide us a bit through your career path, how you ended up in sustainable finance, what you did before IUM, and what did you do after to get into the position where you are right now?
Sure. No, happy. I hope it's not that I ended here, but only a stepping stone for my future career as well. But no, yeah. So look, actually, I started my career in Germany, having dual studies, the same as you actually did, I think.
Yeah.
But I went actually to Munich, and that meant that I had to work simultaneously. Every 3 months, I changed from university to work at a huge corporate German bank. And after 3 years, I decided to, having had a lot of impressions over those 3 years, but very, let's say, tiny fractions of what the jobs could cater for. I decided to stay within the bank and moved to Hamburg, where I worked for Bayerische Landesbank for nearly 2 more years in the corporate banking space. So we actually financed SMEs, starting from, I think, 100 million in turnover up to 1 billion, from every sort of industries. However, as I may have told in the beginning, prior to the call, we actually had a huge exposure to renewable energies in Hamburg, not only financing the project developers and the projects per se, but also all the manufacturers. For instance, for wind turbines in Germany, I mean, there are quite a few very big ones. Yeah, and after 2 years of doing that, I kind of came to the conclusion that I shouldn't stay in Hamburg, should continue, move on, and have some more internationality. And that's actually what brought me a little bit to the IUM then also. Yeah, I then did my master's at the IUM. Oh God, don't quote me, but I think it was 2017 to 2018. Yes. And I had the MSc Finance track with focus on hedge fund and private equity. Yeah. So yeah, and after that, then I actually continued to focus on a little bit more M&A and investment banking space. I took an internship at EY in Frankfurt, which was really intense, but also gave me a lot of flexibility, and not only, let's say, the junior job of providing inputs for your seniors, but a little bit of free hand, thanks to a small team I was working in, but somehow decided to change a little bit career path there again, because I was focused on FICs. So FICs is financial institutions, and I had to deal with questions like, why would it make sense that Allianz, one of the biggest insurers, buys an insurtech firm or startup that just has been around for 2 years? And I mean, insurance is kind of a concept you can't grab really, you can't see. It's just something that comes up hypothetically. It's about risks. We people, I think human, are very not attached to measuring risks in the first place, just inherently. And then actually decided to go for real assets. And again, changing to renewable energies, where I actually was coming from, but then more with regards to transactions. So changed from the corporate banking, corporate finance world more into transaction finance with different consultancy firms I was working with. Amongst others, it was Hyperport in Germany. It was a Green Giraffe, quite Europe spread advisor for renewable energies. And just lately, before I co-founded PARQ Energy, I was working for a Norwegian investment bank, and also covered renewables actually across entire Europe. Yeah. That's like in a nutshell.
So yeah, quite a lot of input already answering half my second question. I mean, coming from corporate banking, it's quite logical that you chose the finance path and not the sustainable path that IUM offers, sustainable master that IUM offers as well. But regarding your specialization, you said you were into hedge funds and alternative investments, or was it private equity? What was it called back then? I think they restructured it. Yeah. Was there any relation already to sustainable finance, or what was your thought back then?
No, back then I was also thinking that it might be an option to go into sustainable finance or also renewable energies. But it was not as present as it is now. I think from a society point of view, on the one hand side, for me personally, it was a little bit more distant. And so I also wanted to broaden my horizon. Plus, I think like it is still possible if you do a master's degree in one sector, you can still move ahead to another one. I mean, in investment banking, you have a lot of people that did physics, that did math, that did perhaps sometimes their doctor in music or something. So I think it's all about then the passion and how much you like it. But yeah, I think back then when I was at IUM, there was no sustainability finance track, which I now actually really like because I think it's becoming a very important matter nowadays. And people should be a little bit more aware of the entire topic of sustainability, however you then define it in the end.
No, maybe there was like a misunderstanding. There's no sustainable finance course. There's a sustainability master, completely loose from finance. When you came to IUM, you had any specific expectations towards it? Like, how did it help you to create the vision to switch on to elevate your career path? I mean, today EY, for example, was present during the career week. Did you find your internship, or did you had any inputs from IUM that helped you with your career?
Yeah. Look, I think first and foremost, actually a very profound technical understanding of how things work in finance for me, but I think also in other lectures and in other courses it will be the same. But speaking for myself and having done my MSc in finance in Monaco, I think it was really about the tools, getting the hands-on approach, which I really liked. I participated in the CFA challenge back then because it was really something unique that IUM offered for students to do. And I really liked the internationality. Think it was really exposing myself a little bit to new people, new cultures. Plus, I think that the mix of different courses and lectures that also come from actually have practical work experience and are not only teaching was very helpful. I liked to go to London for 2 weeks with the class to have classes there, and also just in experiencing what a life in London might be. So yeah, I think that was a good connection that IUM drew always between teaching and the practical focus and the networking you needed to do. Yeah.
Okay, I see. So I think we have a bit more clear vision of where you came from and a bit more about your background. I tried to step in about your job and what you do. Would you give us a frame of what your position consists of?
Yes, sure. So I mean, PARQ Energy is kind of a startup, so to say. We started off 2 years ago with only 5 people. Now we're more than 20. So obviously it's that you do something new each and every day, and also things you wouldn't expect. But I'm actually focusing a lot on obviously the financing within our company and our group actually of companies, because so normally we would develop, operate, also acquire PV plants, but also battery systems in Germany. Sometimes do further development and then construct them and operate them, which obviously requires capital now. So what I'm doing is that I'm on the one hand side leading those acquisition processes. I'm coordinating that internally as well as externally. So with different advisors, legal and technical, also with 2 colleagues in-house. Then when we actually acquired, for instance, a PV plant, it's about actually financing the construction. So what we do there is that we focus on non-recourse project finance and set up financing for the next 15 to 20 years, sometimes also only for a shorter period of the construction, which is then called a construction bridge financing. Which only lasts, depending on obviously how long it takes to build that plant, but let's say 12 to 18 months. And then on a general level, we obviously also finance PARQ Energy on a corporate level. So a general corporate finance with banks. That's actually what I currently focus on.
I see. Okay, and so like, how can I envision your day? I mean, American Psycho is probably not your typical daily life, even though he's in finance. No, I'm just kidding.
No, definitely not. But actually quite interesting that, well, I like that movie very much, but they really seem to have a working routine. And for us, it's not too much a routine, but I would say that you have obviously some tasks that you do on a continuous basis. Some tasks repeat to some extent because each project is different, each situation is different. You're dealing with different people, and that's what I learned very, very much. Besides the tools that had perhaps also some impact through IUM with me. That you're dealing with people and everybody's thinking differently. Everybody had a different kind of education, mindset, family, which obviously influences you and how you perceive things. And so my working routine is actually, I sleep in, I have a long breakfast. No, we normally start, so it's not a 9 to 5 job, but we tend to start at around 9 a.m. Obviously at checking emails throughout the entire day until it's night, but then we do a lot of review of financial models on the one hand side, a lot of contractual work that need to be done, for instance, for construction and procurement agreements, also on financing agreements, on SPAs, so actually share purchase agreements for a PV plant you are looking to buy. As a result from financial models, you also have to look into how to prepare, for instance, an offer. Having a lot of conversations with people, either being advisors that give you technical input, tell you look, if you have your PV plant south facing, better choose a 15-degree angle over a 14-degree angle. So those are things I can't answer and I'm not too interested in, but obviously need to be addressed in contractual frameworks. So that's a lot. And yeah, then all the little things that come up along the way.
I see. Okay. But when you entered the call, I mean, there have only been 3 other people besides me, but you said you're coming from an on-site visit, right?
Yes, yes. So today, for instance, I was on an on-site visit as the PV plant we just bought in February last year. Started construction after having building permit in July last year and was about to finish actually now. There are still some works outstanding, but yeah, looking quite good. We had some also some technical calls, but then I obviously invite my colleagues and also today one of the technical guys from our team was actually joining to have a little bit more the expert talks while I kind of look at those things more from a, let's say, project management perspective. And I think that's really what the most jobs, whether they are technical, more finance related, more legal related, are about. Also in PARQ Energy, it's a lot of project management. So you should really learn how to dedicate your time, focus, prioritize, and also sometimes tell yourself, well, this task, it might take 2 hours, but I can only dedicate 1 hour. It's also fair for some things. So yeah. So today I was actually 2 hours away from Hamburg at our plant, and then came back. Yeah.
I see. And the
That's
other
not the normal thing.
Okay. It's not the normal thing. It's pretty rare that you get out of the office to visit, like your on-site projects,
Not
or?
rare. Not rare. Let's say that like 1 or 2 times a week I have meetings, also external ones. Nowadays, obviously through Teams, for instance, it's much easier. You wouldn't fly to Frankfurt just to have a 1-hour meeting, but obviously you try to then connect the one meeting with another and make the best out of the time, optimize your own schedule. And for plant visits, for site visits, I would say like once every 2 weeks. Sometimes it's just because it's also interesting for me to see, you have a green field. And then like 12 months later, there's a PV plant and there's a substation. So it's really nice to see actually what you can create. Yeah.
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 Like
I love
progress
that
happening.
today.
Yeah. And then the contrast on the other side, how much time do you spend on Excel? Be honest.
The good thing is that I have 2 colleagues that I actually, or specifically hired with more Excel skills. But I would totally agree that Excel can be a strong tool and gives you, if you can handle Excel, it helps you to understand mechanisms. Also for yourself, if you thought you understood a principle or a mechanism, and then you're looking into now actually code it, or please put it into an Excel formula. Then you actually know whether you understood it or not. But yeah, obviously I had to go through slide mines on PowerPoint. I had to work a lot in Excel for financial models. Very tough nights, but I think in the end it was all worth it. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Just wanted to know.
So perhaps if I can say and put a number to it, 4 hours a week, 5 perhaps. So
I see.
rare.
Okay. Not the main part. You spoke before about meetings, either on site or from your office or via Teams. Talking about your clients, what kind of clients do you have? Is it more institutional? Is it we talked today a lot about private equity, and there were for example, high net worth individuals that were like exactly in Monaco here, a huge part of the private equity industry. What kind of clients do you serve, or does PARQ serve?
Yeah. So it's more, it's not a B2C business, rather B2B. I mean, we have a lot of stakeholders throughout the processes, obviously, landowners, communities, cities. We see other investors sometimes as our clients. We have, I think, as our product is not a solar plant. Our product is selling electricity. I'm selling you that you can charge your phone, kind of. Yeah. And I just have, throughout the process and the life cycle of an asset, I need to make sure that I calculate right, make sure that actually in the end, from those, whatever the price for electricity per kilowatt hour may be in your country, in your city, under your specific contract, it provides me with sufficient returns to have actually justification to build that asset. So in the end, our main clients are actually households or industrials. Households, we tend not to go into direct sales of electricity, but I think utilities, energy intense companies, industrials, those are kind of our clients. Yeah.
I see. Okay. And then for your work, we talked about Excel just briefly, but what other skills are necessary for you in your daily job, or would you consider necessary if I want to join you at PARQ, if I want to apply for you as a team member?
Well, patience, which I don't have, and multitasking, which I don't think exists. Yeah, no. Well, look, I think that actually being taught at IUM, a profound, solid background knowledge is obviously always helpful, because if somebody starts a rational argument with you, and you know your 101, that's always helpful. I think beyond that, obviously, I think it's some technical skills in the sense of perhaps financial modeling, but also like legal knowledge is not too bad, because with legal knowledge, you also understand how contracts are related to each other. But I would think overall, what is important is management skills of managing yourself, your time, but also other people. And that's, I think, because we are always working with other people, with other stakeholders, communication skills is one of the most important things. And then beyond, obviously, there are experts on planning and development, some technical experts, but you don't need to be an expert for everything. I think then it's really key to know where to put those people most efficiently.
I see. Is there any typical question in a sustainable finance interview, in the interview process, more specifically?
I don't do the hiring process too much anymore. But obviously, besides some, so what we did actually, which was fun, was that we showed a business case of a PV plant that was about to be acquired. And the hire or the prospect actually should decide in the end to buy it or not. And it was loss making. And so everybody actually said, yeah, it's loss making, I wouldn't buy it. We bought it in the end. So I don't know if there's like a the one question, but I think always, I think critical questions where you can really see how a person reflects on things is always good. So I mean, people can argue about whether your opinion or my opinion matter more, or whether you have the best argument or is it me. But in the end, I think if you have a good argument, you can build your case, then always, I mean, kudos, you stood up for your opinion. So I think that's the main question. And obviously logical thinking then. So explaining somebody why you reached a conclusion. Then still can be wrong, but showing your thought process is just, I think, helpful. And for me, but also what I experienced when I had interviews, makes other people see you in a different light. Because if you just say your answer and it's wrong, they couldn't see behind the scene, kind of.
Yeah, the process behind. I see.
Exactly.
I've heard like a good question. I want to hear your take on it. Yesterday, it was from a lady that was asking the multifamily offices for background knowledge of tax optimization. She was asking, like, is there a YouTube series or like Netflix series or anything where I can get some background information on sustainable finance? I mean, from about real estate, I'm having a bit of real estate background. I love the YouTube series Breaking into CRE by 𝗚𝗲𝗿𝗿𝗁. That was super helpful to understand like the basic concepts. Is there anything similar you know about in the sustainable finance world?
Well, the only thing that would come to my mind, you already said with American Psycho, but we could argue whether that is too sustainable or not. No, actually, I'm thinking about whether there are any series. Obviously, I loved a lot of those investment banking movies, Big Short. Some like these, but ESG or sustainable finance related topics are rare, actually. Mostly it's only about documentaries, I would guess.
Okay.
Yeah. But if I find some, I share them with you and Viola.
Yeah, perfect. And you did some like quite interesting internships and jobs before. For anybody that wants to break into this field of finance, is there any specific requirement for job entrance at sustainable finance? Or is it easier if you take a specific path before, for example, if you want to break into private equity, it is commonly not known, but said working in investment banking before is helpful. Something similar there?
Well, yeah, I would say that it's very helpful if you had some work experience that is related to that, or similar, or where you could at least argue that the skill set you acquired through that job or through that experience is helpful for this and that reason in the new job. I think that and that kind of resonates with what I said before. Really building your case. The conclusion in the end might be, I mean, if you tell me you have a master's degree in physics, and I could ask myself, okay, why would I need a rocket scientist to run a model? But you could argue, yeah, I did that all the time for stock markets. It might not differ too much in the mechanics of building a model compared to some technical related models. So it's I think it's very good if you can bring some work experience to the table, some relevant courses that you really liked. For instance, when I applied at EY, I was really showing them the case of being at the CFA challenge on how to know how valuation is done, that I know how processes work. And that was really helpful to get my internship at EY back then. Obviously, them knowing I worked for a bank nearly 5 years helped as well. But I think just having a rational argument on why this job actually and your boss can actually benefit from your skill set that you had acquired before.
I see. Okay. I mean, that was pushing my ego that you said you were participating in the CFA challenge, then it helped your getting your job, because I participated as well, even though I was not in the winning team. But
Me neither. Me neither.
No, let me continue with my question. You already explained a bit, but your internship was not completely in line with your current job, was it?
No, I mean, it was, if you define the broader finance industry, yes, it was finance.
Yeah.
And it obviously had to do with mergers and acquisitions, where you follow, let's say, comparable processes, going from, let's say, a teaser to an NBO stage, having due diligences, having a binding offer, then valuation along that, and in the end, reaching a stage of documentation where you have the transaction documents, SPA or whatever agreements being finalized. So that was really helpful, but from an asset side, I think no, not at all. Plus,
Yeah.
I think back then also, I'm just thinking, I don't think that at any point during that time during my internship, there was ever the word sustainability. So and now it's playing a big part for me. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has heard of it quite a lot, I think. By these days, sustainability is in every part of finance and every part of the world. Everybody's talking about it. It's a huge change. But
Definitely.
yeah, sorry.
No, definitely, sure.
But how was your process to find the job? I mean, what now a lot of people from my class are looking for internships. Is it highly competitive? How would you consider the field of sustainable finance? Are there a lot of job opportunities right now? Is there a special season where there are more jobs available?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there is like the seasonality attached to university cycles and off seasons. But I think the chances in sustainable finance is really good at the moment, because a lot of companies that perhaps also hadn't had any connection with sustainability in the first place are now kind of exposed to it. Plus, I think, look, the overall social consensual feeling of sustainability being a higher driver actually of value creation than it was experienced before is also a very big part of it. Yeah.
I see.
So I think the chances are good. The chances are really good. And so I mean, I did apply for a lot of jobs. So you shouldn't expect to just send or apply for one job and be invited and have that job offer on your desk the next day. So it also builds up a little bit of resilience. But also, let's say, the times that you, I wouldn't say succeed, but the times that you wouldn't get the job are not bad as well, because you're learning from those, because you're seeing what other people might value in you or not, which also helps you to shape yourself and what you really want. So yeah, you should write at least a couple of application forms. Huh?
I see. Yeah, no, I was asking because I saw like in a small message on Glassdoor or like one of these Wall Street, or I said it was like people from the US somewhere was I think people with a master's degree looking already for 2 months for a job. What was in your case, in your example, how long did it take you to find, first of all, the internship after IUM and then now your current job where you are right now?
So the internship, I think it was just during my studies. simultaneously. So I need to lie. I think it was like 2 or 3 months looking for different positions, because obviously you also, it's not just that, you know, these are the 20 companies I would like to work in, but you're kind of figuring out, okay, if I'm moving to that space, I could also do this, or you just figure out the entire industry, and also find sometimes a little bit, different fields, different companies that also resonate with you. But yeah, I would say simultaneously to the studies, it was like in parallel 2 months, and yeah, after I finished my internship, or during my internship, actually, I applied for 4 or 5 jobs, and yeah, I was lucky to get the one I wanted. Perhaps sometimes people would require it a bit longer, but also I would just like to address, don't feel frustrated then, because that it doesn't mean that you are not worth it, that you're bad in something. It's just a very big market, and sometimes it needs time to find the real position that is made for you. I mean, I also, if you look into my CV, I changed a lot, like 5, 6 employers. So that's totally normal.
I see. Okay. Now that you are in your position at PARQ, what do you see as current challenges for sustainable finance? What is something people could struggle if they jump into a job at sustainable finance? Where's the biggest challenge of the industry right now?
I'd say that sometimes it's that it is not all too predefined, but it's also nice because you kind of sometimes have a white piece of paper in front of you, and you can create as well. But yeah, I mean, so there are different layers when it comes to sustainability and sustainable finance. I mean, on the one hand side, it's the things that you would finance that require some sustainability focus and ESG focus. So, for instance, at PARQ, we actually obviously have sustainability in our core DNA. It's in our core business model that we build PV plants and battery systems, and we sell green energy. So obviously, from that perspective, there is an angle to a sustainable finance, but also there's more and more conformity on ESG levels, for instance, and those are actually set up from a legislation point of view. So if you're looking in EU taxonomy, if you're looking into DIN norms, ISOs that need to be fulfilled, and kind of finding your way through this jungle of things, and also then prioritizing of what is actually important, what's not, is really a challenge at the beginning. Yeah.
Okay, I see. You already talked a bit about the taxonomy. You think it is a driver, or what's the role of the change in policy? I mean, we in Germany have a special case just by now. We'll have to see where it leads. But would you consider, where do you see regulation shaping finance, sustainable finance?
I think in general, you need to see that by regulatory framework and legislation, you are putting a price actually to things that no one has seen before. So if you're looking, for instance, at climate change, that's something like 50 years ago, let's say at least not as many people as now were confronted with and were aware of. So just by that, I think the tolerance for that topic is much higher, and the acceptance. Then I think it's really difficult if you have a time span that is rather isolated, looking at your life 80 years or your working life 40, 50 years, it's rather isolated and egoistic view if you do not include aspects that have long leading effects. And for instance, with climate change, obviously, some impacts we're already feeling. Some other impacts will be more drastic in 50 years, in 30 years, in 20 years. And you wouldn't necessarily consider those now, as they seem to be far apart. They can't be measured too much. So it needs some framework, some externality that puts a price to it, kind of. And that's what, sustainable finance in the context of EU taxonomy does. So it kind of regulates the market in the sense that aspects that were not valued before are getting valued. You're looking at, for instance, products, financial products. You're looking at risk assessments where projects, companies that do a lot more fulfill ESG criteria, for instance, get a better credit score, where and then the financing costs actually decrease. Also, you're more obliged to disclose a lot more on sustainable aspects, which obviously makes you a little bit more in a marketing perspective to your clients exposed, but on the other hand, also drives then a demand for your product. And that's then also like the client's demand in the end, and a lot of reputational risk that you're putting towards non-sustainable business culture in a broader context. And therefore also I think sustainable finance is really key and will become more and more important, because all the legislation, the regulation we're looking at, it's relatively new. I mean, if you're looking at Basel 1, 2, 3, those are actually requirements for banks on how much capital they need to keep in if they grant a loan, to put it easy. Those have been around for 40 years now. The most EU taxonomy legislation has been around for 4 or 5 years, so it's relatively new, and it will grow. So I think companies will or need to prep themselves to face those challenges in the sense of dealing with requirements, but also addressing obviously vital points for our lives.
I see. Well, that was quite theoretical, but pretty good insight. Yeah.
I can actually make it very practical for you. If you'd like.
Oh yes, please.
So, the EU taxonomy actually says that you actually have to, with regards to climate, obviously, because that's my focus area, but that for each investment, a bank actually, or we actually build a PV plant. Yeah, we want to get a loan for that from a bank. You would actually argue that this asset itself, it's producing green energy. So what the heck? You don't need to assess that. However, the EU taxonomy actually obliges the bank, and thereby it obliges us to assess whether this asset is on track for the EU taxonomy. And that in practice actually means that we need to assess our assets in the sense of how much does it reduce greenhouse gas, how much, or emissions, how much is it contributing to green energy supply for people. And while you can measure that relatively good, because you know, okay, what are production costs for the substructure and the modules, and you put them on, you could all measure that a little bit. But what is really then kind of tricky for me is, while I do this evaluation for the bank, I also have to evaluate on how adaptable is that asset to climate change, meaning how resilient is it? And there you actually need to assess whether that asset is exposed to any risks from flooding, from drought, from any other things. And that actually is then detailed work on the one hand side, but also a little bit, looking into the glass bowl.
Yeah, I see.
Because no one can really answer that. On the other hand, it gives. We actually had to develop our own scoring system and populate that with our own information. So if we build a PV plant, we obviously assess where the site is, how much sun is shining, all that, let's say, external factors.
Not
and
too
we
much
put
in Germany.
yeah. And we put those actually as parameters in that scoreboard. Yeah. So and we had to develop that scoreboard on our own. We need to provide that with the bank, and actually also defend it in front of the bank, because they need to defend it internally as well. But yeah, so that's really practical then.
I see. I saw as well that Viola just popped in the chat that Q&A session is open, but I can't read any of the questions yet. Maybe everybody is holding back, like it was a long day, can understand it. I would just continue. Maybe what was your best experience, or your best, what do you like most about your job? Do you have something specific that you did just recently that you have been very, very happy about?
I mean, that's what's driving me a little bit every day, is that I definitely have the feeling that I'm contributing to something bigger. Because, I mean, look, if you're in sustainable finance, you actually allocate capital to the right place. What you're effectively doing is that companies that have a reason to be there get the money, and companies that don't do not. So you're having actually, or you're working on this guideline that obviously is put in place by regulation, but this guideline you're actually working on it, and that's really interesting for me. Plus, I mean, every day there's a kind of a new struggle, new things that are popping up. I like, sometimes I do a little bit more work on a model. Then I say, oh God, I would like to go back to negotiations. Then I'm in negotiations. I say after a week, oh no, I would like to have a little bit more technical input. So it always changes what I would like to have as an input for myself, but it also does. And that's what I really, really like. So it's not just stubborn numbers crunching a game that I'm doing, or that I think people in this industry do. So yeah, and that's what I benefit a lot from. Mentally.
Yeah, I can really see that smile. You really enjoy that. Or maybe it's a salary. I don't know. Maybe you will give us a little hint, not about like what you earn exactly, but can you give us like a range of what's possible in sustainable finance?
That is always interesting question, I think, for students to just have an outlook also. Look. I think it always depends a little bit where you are positioned at. So obviously it depends on your whether you're junior, managing director. So along the ladder, let's say, it obviously has an impact, and how long of experience you gained. But and also one crucial factor is whether you are, let's say, a little bit more growth oriented, or and therefore putting a little more risk on your platter, or whether you are working for a very solid corporate job in a huge company, because then you can't expect. It's actually the black swan theory, kind of, no, where you kind of know, look, your Gauss curve is kind of very sticky. towards one particular event, and that's happening in the corporate context. So if you're working for big, let's say, utility, you can expect a very good salary, which is very stable, depending on the country, but definitely can reach 6 figures if you're living in a small village in Germany. But if you're expert to that, and then if you're more growth oriented, obviously there's more volatility in what you can achieve. But then so for instance, as an associate within a bank, you can obviously earn relatively fast 6 figures.
I see. Okay, very good.
Yeah. But obviously also the workload is a different one, no?
Yeah. But still you're smiling. I see.
Well, I'm not in the bank anymore, so.
For example, for me
But
now,
I think
yeah, sorry.
It's I think a very good salary you can get in this industry. Also, obviously, depending on what exactly you do, but you can really monitor what your contribution to a company's success was by how much capital you raised, by how much projects or companies you finance. So it's relatively measurable, and therefore easier, obviously, to also include any bonus.
Yeah, of course, that's typical finance project-related bonus. Just taking me as an example for the last couple of minutes. When I would start now from like no experience in sustainability, but coming from a master's, having all my technicals set, like where would I start? I mean, of course, obviously, I'm not looking in the first job for the highest salary possible. I want to learn, but what would be something I could expect, just to be sure I'm not getting scammed once I apply?
I learned something that really is true, and it sounds stupid, but first do something that you like and that you really want to do, and then the money will follow. It sounds so stupid, but it really is that way. Because when you do what you like, you are good, or you will become very good at it. And by that, you obviously create your own value that other people pay you for. They pay you for your opinion, for your inputs. I think, like, if you're starting with a bank with no experience at all in sustainable finance, and let's take one of the major banks as a junior, I would guess like 60-70K is like a starting salary fix. With PARQ, we're a startup. It's obviously a little bit lower, but no, I think, and that's then the point I made, growth orientation. So what we offered all our colleagues, our employees, is that from the value they create, they can actually benefit, because that's the biggest motivation then. No? Yeah.
I see. Now, you already talked about you and your startup. You have currently open positions at PARQ, just as an interest, maybe for German speakers or whatever would be necessary.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, from the set of qualifications or skills, as I mentioned, I mean, it's about people skills. Obviously, there's some level, I would say, to PowerPoint or to Excel that you would expect, but it's not that we have financial model test ready for people or something. No, we are continuously looking for students. I think due to the fact that we are focusing on Germany and Poland, by the way, Polish or German speaking persons are not preferred. No, not that, but it's obviously very helpful to speak the same language. And unfortunately, Germany is not very progressive in that sense. It's sometimes really hard because I need to think of the German words I would use in English in financing terms. Just to explain that to Germans. But yeah, that, and plus what we also experienced, and I think that was really during COVID a challenge for a lot of people, is that I think presence in an office is very helpful because you can just sense the dynamic of people talking to each other. How do they talk to each other about what? And that's something you wouldn't understand or learn from home, even though I'm a very big advocate for don't have FaceTime. Like FaceTime in the sense that you need to stay at the office, that you need to be there every day. Look, if you want to stay at home and do your laundry every 2 hours for 10 minutes, who am I to care? Who am I to care? So yeah.
I see. Okay. Is there anything else that I didn't cover by my questions that you want to share with the audience? I mean, some already left. I think we're quite late in the evening, but feel free to share something.
Yeah, look, well, I think I wasn't sure what to do exactly when I was at IUM, like afterwards. But kind of found it out during that time. So it's pretty normal if you don't exactly know, I want to work for ENGIE in Paris in that position. No, that's not necessary. But it sometimes also helps to know what you don't want to do. That's also very helpful.
Yeah.
So just take that flow of your emotions and your thoughts, and then lay back and think about that from time to time, and find something that you really like. Obviously, I also have some days that I really don't want to start to work, and then they turn out to be very good. Also the other way around, where they start really good and well, but that's also normal. I think on average, you just need this a little bit more to be on the positive side. And yeah, during IUM time, I really liked to also speak with people from other courses, so from luxury management, for instance, just because they have a different mindset a little bit as a person, but also give you so much back. If you're telling them about what you do and they're telling you what they do, you will always find some overlappings. So really good. And yeah, if you ever have any questions, obviously I often try to visit Monaco at least once or twice a year. So I'm also happy to then have a talk with any one of you at the IUM.
Great.
Or text.
Great. And I hope we'll get your mail passed forward so we can forward any questions regarding sustainable finance. All right, I think we can call it a wrap. That was a good hour. Thank you for everybody that was patiently waiting, staying with us for the entire hour.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Benedikt, for those questions, and everybody else as well. Happy if I could have inspired at least some of you, or just have your thoughts around that industry. And if there are any questions coming up anytime, either through Viola or directly to me, happy to be there.
Perfect. Thank you, Gerrit, as well, for answering all these questions, taking your time. Thank you very much.
I'll get back to the financial models now.
Yeah.
Have a good evening, and see you soon.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.